Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I am Carolina Issa, the CEO and fashion director at Tank magazine in London, and I am very excited to be here in Doha, sharing the stage with Dior's creative director of the women's collections, Maria Grazia Chiuri, as well as photographer and her collaborator, Brigitte Lacombe, on the premiere of the latest iteration of Christian Dior Designer of Dreams exhibition that is launching tonight at M7. Maria Grazia, considering your own distinct vision of the Dior legacy, was it challenging to have acted as a curator, working with the work of your predecessors? Normally, creative directors, when they join a brand, they want to forget everything in the past, not necessarily celebrate it. How did you approach it?
First, I want to say thank you to invite me in Doha with this beautiful exhibition. I say all the time when I arrive in Dior that my idea was in meantime to be a curator of the history of Dior, of the brand, and the other side also creative director. Because in any case, when you are a curator, you select. And some way you give a point of view about the legacy of the house. And also because I think it's impossible to be a creative director today in a house that has so important and long history and don't remember and know in some way also promote this important legacy. I really respect all the great designers that worked before me in Dior. I think that a creative director that approach in a brand with a big history like Dior knows that is a chapter of a big book. And you have to upset. You have to give your point of view in the moment about the brand and to move the brand for the future. I'm very happy that also inside this beautiful exhibition that are going around the world is possible to read and to see all the work of all these great artists like Ferré, Galliano, Bohan, that it was so for a long time in Dior and not so well known. All the time I promote a lot the work of Bohan because I think it was revolutionary in some way, but it was not so well known like John Galliano, another designer. This is give me a big pleasure and also help me to discover each time different aspect about the brand, and I found this very interesting. I have a good relationship with the history, probably because I come from Roma, where there is history everywhere around me, so I am not in competition with the past. But I think the past can teach us a lot about our future.
Yes, you've been born surrounded by the past. Brigitte, you're an important part of Maria Grazia's Dior legacy, having been chosen to be the first photographer of her ad campaign and also the first female photographer. Or the second, in fact, because Annie Leibovitz had done it. But what did you want to import from this campaign? It was obviously an important statement to work with Brigitte. What was it for you? You worked with the models Ruth and May Bell. What did you want this campaign to sort of showcase?
I think for me it was kind of a very, first it was a great surprise that Maria Grazia chose me.
Why? Why was that?
Well, because I'm not, I was not the obvious candidate, really. I mean, every photographer will want to be chosen to do a campaign, and especially the first campaign for Maria Grazia for Dior. I mean, and I do fashion for a long time, but I'm not a fashion photographer per se. And it was a surprise. But the fact that Maria Grazia chose me and trusted me, because it really is that. I mean, it's like to choose, and that's what you are so good at, is like to know someone's work, and once you choose them, you kind of like let them do what they do. And I felt that right away that Maria Grazia chose me for what I was doing and not ask me to do anything different or try to, direct me in that direction or it was not about a concept so I felt like that it was fine, I could do it. And it was about sisterhood also, because the first campaign was with these twins and Ruth and May. And so it was, to me, it was about, of course, the fashion that you had designed, but it was really about like character and the intimacy of that relationship between these two sisters. It was, anyway, I was very, very happy to be able to do what I do and felt like it was right and what was expected of me. That's what you wanted. And so I'm very grateful for that. So
I'm very happy about the work that Brigitte did for me. And honestly, when I approached her, I was also in depth that because she's an artist more than fashion photographer. But I was obsessed with that because I think that normally probably they are not so conscious, but in fashion is more present man photographer. And I think it's very important to have a point of view, a female gaze, because represent women in a different way. And also the fact that I asked Brigitte to shoot the sister that are twins, but so different, is also because I was sure that she can show their legacy, but at the same time, their difference, their personality. I think this is the thing that touched me about her work.
Yeah, and the magic to be able to show the character. Going back to the exhibition, Maria Grazia, is there something that you obviously have to spend a lot of time in the archives? Is there something that surprised you or you felt like you were learning new things that you never knew about Dior's history through the process of these exhibitions and how they change each time?
Oh, I think that I discovered many aspects about the history of Dior that was not so well known. The first thing that touched me a lot was how much the Dior brand was immediately global around the world. And like that he immediately opened an atelier in a couture house also in New York. And like he understood was important to also to transform the silhouette for the women, American women that at the time had a completely different style of life that women in Paris. And the other aspect that was very important for me was also here his relationship with his sister, Catherine. Catherine Dior is not so well known. I'm so happy that now Justine Picardie did this beautiful book about her history, but it was really a reference for Mr. Dior. Around Mr. Dior, there was many women that support him to build his brand, and there was also reference in what he did for silhouette, style. It was in conversation. And Catherine, I think, was the most important.
And it is, I think the book really delves into her life and how he also impacted Monsieur Dior. Is there, and it's, I've seen the show at the V&A, and I'm quite surprised at how different each show is. Is there one thing in the show that you would recommend to everybody here to spend some time on? Is there something that you love in the show?
I really think that each exhibition is different because the curators are different, because also all the exhibition are in conversation also with the place where they are do it. So I think it's important to see all the history of the house, but in my point of view is also interesting, very interesting for me to say like the dress change with the time, because we are never forgot when the clothes was done. This is super interesting, and like the women change. I think also in the personal clothes that are in the exhibition of Sheikha Moza, for example, you say that she chose piece from Galliano, from Ferré, from me. So you see like the women change their style, their attitude, because at the end clothes speak about women, our life, and I think the designer in some way capture this time in what they do, and that is for me is the most important things.
In the exhibition, you see how tiny the original bar jacket is, and thank goodness you have you've updated it for today's
I
women's
did just
movements.
a little bit more light and more comfortable.
Even a little bit more room for us.
But we are not to forget that Mr. Dior started his company in 1947 after the Second World, when Paris was completely destroyed, when also the temperature was completely different. And the women also really sick, not because it was fashion, but because there was the Second War. So now I think our style of life is different. So also that I want to maintain the shape, the heritage, I have to make it in a way that is more wearable, more light, for a different style of life.
Today. Now, going back to the past, in 1947, Christian Dior became really the most famous grand couturier, promoting the French art of haute couture really throughout the world. And couture celebrates the sort of artisanal virtuosity in fashion and celebrates a variety of forms of techniques, embroidery, incredible textiles. And I think not only has Dior brought couture to the world, but you have really brought local expertise craft into your own collections. And I'm thinking of many of what we were just watching on that introduction show, many ateliers from around the world that you seek out. So for example, I am wearing this incredible jacket from the resort collection that you showed in Greece this summer with beautiful sort of handiwork and embroidery. And this was a family-run atelier in Argos in Greece that you discovered. What is it about this kind of craft that really inspires you?
Oh, one of the aspects of to be a creative director in couture brands means to work in craftsmanship. Craftsmanship for me is a form of art. I really appreciate that in French culture they really celebrate this aspect. Also for me that I come from Italy is unusual because we probably, the problem sometimes is that for us is normal, but it's not normal. And but when I go around the world with our cruise, because I never did before Dior other cruise show. I started to realize cruise show only when I moved to Dior. I decided to be in conversation with a different country and to discover the craftsmanship and the couture aspect in the different country. Because I think it's very important to recognize that the couture, craftsmanship and art, and the artist aspect that there is behind that is not only in Paris or only in Italy, it's around the world. There are, for example, where we did this jacket is at 2 hours from Athens, and honestly, this kind of craftsmanship is very specific of this area, and speak about tradition, skills, but also identity. There are many aspects that we forgot how much is important the textile style, the embroidery in the history of humanity. It was one of the most first activity. I think that I really love to go around the world to have a conversation, because it's a way to be in contact, also in sisterhood, with other people that love this kind of craft.
And I think recently you also mentioned how supporting these crafts, these small family ateliers, because it's quite challenging.
Yes.
And actually over the last moment, you know, you also, it's been very important to you to support them, to make sure that this craft kind of stays alive, isn't it?
Oh, yes, because the first thing that I understood when I arrived in Diour, that probably because I was not conscious about that, but Diour is a big platform. It's very well known around the world. So I decided to share this big audience with other artists, photographer, designer, but also craft, also dancer, writer, to give them space and use their voice. The thing important is to collaborate together to build a project that can help us to make something that give a strong emotion, first to us.
No, and we're going to come to that in a second. And I think what you mentioned around collaboration, because Brigitte, for you, I mean, photography is the process of collaboration. What are the ingredients for you that you require for your images to sort of, you know, be the ones that you're sort of the most excited about? What is it about? Because I came to visit your studio yesterday, and Brigitte has been here with an incredible pop-up studio, and I understand you do this around the world, and it's amazing to see your team around you and the sort of secret language that you have to make sure that the camera's at the right angle. And what for you makes great collaboration, and even the way that you work with Maria Grazia?
Well, I think it's what we started to talk about. It's like to choose the right people that, and Maria Grazia, you choose very, very different people. I mean, women mainly, but very, very different artists. But if you choose them, then you have to allow them to do what they do. You choose them, you know, it's like in movies. The casting is like almost everything for a movie, you know. And otherwise, it's about being able to be in the moment, to be very, very present in the moment, and to be able to, I mean, for me, for the kind of photograph I do, is you have to be, it's about intimacy, and so it's about a certain directness, a certain strength, something genuine, and so, and able to be able to do that and to function well for me, I have to have like the most extraordinary team around me, which I have, that I trust completely. And as you said, it's like we almost don't speak to each other. It's like, and so because I have this extraordinary support, I can be completely free to be just emotionally present. Because it's not about the technique at this point. I mean, everything that is about the technique and what you know how to do in your work, you have, of course, to have it. But it's all has to do about the preparation. But when the moment of the work comes and the moment where you are actually engaged with someone in a portrait or in a fashion picture, for me it's all about the emotion and the moment, and you have to be able to be in the present, and it's a concentration, and also to be, I always feel that you have to be there with good intention. You know, I don't work very well with tension. Some people thrive on tension, but I don't. I want it to be like a good, I mean, you are like that too.
Me too. I think Maria Grazia, you're exactly like that. The good intention, you have to feel that energy.
Yeah, but it's true what Brigitte said, because it's about intimacy, it is about to trust each other, especially in our work, because when someone take you a picture, I'm speaking the other side, you have to trust in the photographer that capture your intimacy. So you have to trust, you have to decide to show at the photographer part of your...
But it's a collaboration. I mean, in portrait or in photography in general, for me, it's really not about imposing anything. It's really about a collaboration with the person you photograph. And so you have to kind of meet each other and trust each other.
Yes.
And so that's, I mean, at least in the way I understand it for me, that's the way I work.
You have to do that very quickly because...
And you have to do it very quickly.
Yeah. And build that trust.
Yes.
To capture the instant.
Yeah. That's why all the people that work with you, that's why all our team is the most important, you know.
And your trusted family. But Maria Grazia, you talk about Dior as a platform, not just as a fashion house. And I think that's really important today. One of the moments in this film that was played before was showcasing the Chanakya School of Embroidery. Can you talk a little bit about your work with them?
Oh, I really happy to work with them from a long time. And because I don't know how much the people, the audience knows, but India is very famous for embroidery. Now is the country that are more talent embroidery. And in a special way, the reality is that embroidery, like in the past in Italy, was done for women only at home, for their personal things, for their personal house. The company, inside the company, the embroidery are all men. So the idea was, at one moment, many years ago, that started to be difficult also to find a new generation, because embroidery is something that passed from the mother to the daughter. It's something that is really familiar. I know very well this tradition because it's also part of my culture. The risk was that disappear this kind of transmission. So I say, oh, why we don't try to make a school for women, where the women from different age, they can come and they can improve and they can find also a work for the future, not only for themselves. We are working very hard this project because we are with the Karishma, that is the lady in India that is the chief of the foundation. Yes, because it's important. There are many aspects to put together, and that we hope to, and we are very ambitious about this project because it's a project that is not only about fashion but is also about art. Because really we want for first that in India they understood the value of these skills that they have. Because I saw also in Italy when I was young, my grandmother, my mother was very normal to make embroidery, but they didn't give them the right value. Because the idea was that was a domestic work. Like a second choice. The first choice in the life was more to go to the university. So I think that's helped them to trust in their talent and also in their heritage.
That it's a craft, a livelihood, yes. So speaking of collaboration, I would love to remind our audience of one of the key looks from your debut collection back in 2016 as the first ever female creative director to hold the reins at Catherine Dior. And it was a T-shirt that had the emblazoned title of an essay by the Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and her essay, We Should All Be Feminists. And you can see it in the exhibition. Now, that was much more than just a slogan for you, wasn't it? Because I think slogans are quite easy, but actually it takes real courage on the follow-up, as you said, to use the platform. Because since then you have relentlessly promoted, supported female artists by commissioning a variety of projects. So for example, Judy Chicago, the incredible artist, American artist. She did for you 21 embroidered panels, again working with the Czechia School of Embroidery for the Haute Couture 2020 show, whether that was working with the feminist author and poet Robin Morgan, who's got a great Dior Talks podcast, by the way, that you need to listen to, choreographer Sharon Ayel. I mean, the list goes on. Brigitte, you mentioned this. You know, you have been championing female artists since the beginning of your time at Dior. And it's an ongoing commitment that we all really admire, this sort of idea of developing a creative sisterhood. How have you taken Monsieur Dior's legacy and updated it for the 21st century in your own idea of femininity and female empowerment?
Honestly, my idea came from that I was super surprised when everybody say, oh, she's the first designer, women designer in Dior, no? So nobody spoke about my career.
Long career, yes.
The only aspect was to speak about that I was the first women creative director in Dior. And that surprised me, honestly, because I found strange in some way. And the other aspect was also that this idea of that Mr. Dior did, but in 47, because it was really a specific moment in his life when he made the bar jacket, the silhouette of Dior, was, like I said, initial from the Second World, after the Second World in 47, when, and in his idea, he come back at the moment that he was happy. So the reference was his mother, the Belle Époque. The idea inside also around the world was that Dior was femininity and closer with an idea of a silhouette. I don't think that femininity means that. I think femininity is something very faceted, and there are very different aspects of femininity. So I started this conversation because every collection I try to improve this conversation with all the women around the world, women, men, but in general, about in the brand. What meant today was to speak about our time, because the other aspect that is really a risk when you go to work in a brand that has so big legacy, that you are too much close with the legacy. The risk is that you are repropose something that could be good for an exhibition, but is not good for the women today.
It's not relevant and of its time. And how do, I mean, you've worked with so many incredible artists now. I know in the latest issue of the magazine I was reading about Yves Jospin, the incredible sort of artwork pieces that were for the Fall/Winter 21 show. How do you find the artists that you want, even, you know, having in mind when you were working with Brigitte, but how do you find the artists that you want to work with?
I'm super curious. I study a lot. I read all the book, I see all the exhibition, I see many think. I'm very curious, and I have also a fantastic team also that support me, because I was the first, I think, creative director that has also in my team and my studio a part that is cultural. But because that interests me, honestly. Is part of this job that I really like, and I like around the world, but to understand also the different aspect that is closer with the craftsmanship, with the culture, with the art. So there is no specific plan. All the time is a work in progress.
A conversation, as
A conversation.
you say. And a lot of the artists I read keep saying they think it's a joke when your office or yourself emails.
Absolutely.
I mean, even Brigitte was like, I couldn't believe it in a way, which is quite lovely.
Oh, sometimes when I call some artist, I say, "Oh, but we try. We can write a letter." This is my first. We can write a letter. Also, the first time with Chimamanda, she received a letter because at the initial she didn't know nothing about fashion, and she said, "What they want from me? I am a writer. What fashion house?" So I think the best thing is to write a letter and to explain very well why you want to contact an artist.
So letter writing, remember, it's a lost art, but very important. No, absolutely. I think a lot of these women and a lot of the artists that you work with, obviously around the female artists, but Brigitte, we've been talking a lot about the female gaze, which is, an art theory and bandied around a long time. But do you think that finally female in the creative industry are sort of finally making good progress and getting their due and in the industry?
You mean the woman in general or just the industry?
Well, first the creative industry, because as Maria Grazia said, I think, for a very long time.
I think there is incredible progress, yeah. That when I started, there was maybe 5 other photographers, women that I knew, and now there is so many young women photographers. And that's true in, I think, almost every discipline. I mean, there is, of course, a lot of progress to be made, but no, I think it's progressing a lot. Don't you think, Maria?
I think there are more. I have to say that it's much more difficult for them to arrive in the high position.
Yeah.
This is the real things. I don't think there are no creative women in general, there are a lot, but also in the other. But it's much more difficult to arrive in a high position. I am very happy that Dior give me this opportunity, but it's not easy also that you stay in Italy to have this kind of a position. If you are not the owner of the brand, of course. In this case, it's possible. But so it's the same for photographer. I think there are many women photographers. It's much more difficult for them to arrive to make a campaign for big brand.
Yeah.
Or for big story for big magazine. This is the problem.
Did you know at the beginning when you joined that you only wanted to work with female photographers?
Yes, I want to say that at the initial, when I say that I would like to shoot only with women photographers, and once they tried to say me that there was no women photographer, I say, you are joking? Because we had to be, I work in fashion from a long time. I started when I was 20 years old. Fashion has really changed a lot. Now is another dimension, is more mainstream, is a big industrial too. But I have to recognize that we did some mistake. Probably we was not conscious about that. But we did some mistake, and we had to be ready and to correct the mistake that we did.
Well, now you've got a beautiful platform to do that with. I think we're going to wrap up. We've got a little bit of time for questions, but I wanted to share with you this quote that I found from Monsieur Dior, that is, "Couturiers embody one of the last refuges of the marvelous. They are, in a way, masters of dreams and the only ones who can transfigure, since Cinderella's fairy godmother is no longer working." And I thought it was sort of the perfect quote to finish this wonderful chat with Maria Grazia and Brigitte, as we thank you for making us marvel and dream of the marvelous. So thank you both.
Thank you.
I'm going to open it up to questions. I'm hoping somebody in the audience, but we've got microphones on either side, so if you raise your hand.
Hi, Caroline. Hi, Maria. Hi, Brigitte. Since you spoke a lot about craftsmanship, what's your take on craftsmanship in the Arab world, and how would you today use your position to kind of support Arab artisans?
We honestly, for now, we didn't work in this area with artisan in this area. We worked in the past in many different countries. Normally, our work is with a cruise collection. So we did in Greece, we did in Italy, we did in Morocco, and also, sorry, because I forgot where we went, but because this kind of a project for us is possible to do one for a year. It's not possible more, because our project that normally we start in October and we have the show in April, May, because are very long. We had to go in the country, we had to visit all the artisan or the supply with the team. So the process is super long. More than one for a year is not possible. But I hope in the future, why not? But it's necessary all the time that we start in time and we made all the process, also selection, because we are also to remember that we have to understand when we select a supply, if or artisan or craftsmanship, if she can, or them can create something like a limited edition, or they can do all the production. Is not a work that I do alone, is a work also that I do with the product manager of Dior. So it's very complex. The good thing is that Dior support me to make both. I can work also with the small or the big artisan. Is no, we are able to work with both.
Oh, well, it means you get to discover, hopefully.
Absolutely, why not?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you? Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You have been portraying sisterhood in a global language through your own interpretation of shows, collaborations, and artisan mentorship. What is the main message that you aim to spread through those collaborations?
That is a conversation between different cultures, different background, and that is helpful for both, because I think help who made this craftsmanship to see they work with different eye, and also can help them to promote much better for the future. And the same times for us is a way to discover new craft that we never made, or sometimes yes, but is difference the approach, and help in idea of the sisterhood, because I think that fashion can do a lot, especially luxury brand. It's not possible for all the brand to realize this kind of collaboration, this kind of project, because in any case are really intense, for not only about money but about work. You need a lot of people for make this project. But I really believe that could be helpful, and they can, especially when I went also in some country, that they are interested to develop their personal brand. That's helped them, this conversation with the big brand, to understand like they can evolve their craft and to create their brand.
And they learn from Dior as
Absolutely.
much as you do now. Wonderful. Got maybe one more question? Time for one more question?
Sure. Hi.
Oh.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
This is Valia from Elle Magazine. I would like to ask about the collaborations. Which collaboration kept a great impact in your life and comes first to your mind? just now,
Which collaboration?
kept a great impact in your life and comes first to your mind?
She's asking which collaboration sort of is very close to you that you can
all.
mention.
No, all the artists, all the photographers, it's like that as part of this global project for Dior. I am not thinking that I'm doing that alone. I'm doing this with Brigitte, with all the artists that collaborate. It's very choral. I really believe in community work. I think this is the most important aspect for me today. So they became some way part of the global project that I'm doing for Dior, and I think all them, like part of my new friends, my new family. So for me are all really, really important and very personal too.
Well, listen, thank you. Thank you to all of
Thank
you
you.
for joining us, Brigitte. Thank you. Grazia.